Hi everybody and welcome. Myself and John are here in the studio today because Chris is off in the ether.
Chris is
He's doing things with top men.
top man.
Top men. Anyway, what we're here to talk about is Team Yankee's new West German book. So John, you have dove headfirst into this.
Of course.
Because Germans and tanks
Yes.
and, infantry but tanks and, artillery but tanks and aircraft but tanks.
Yes. I will say though, I'm still on my little mini crusade of include more infantry in your World War III games.
Really?
Yes, because there's too...
But they're not tanks.
I almost said there's too many tanks in this game.
Oh, sacrilege!
But there actually is. So the previous book, as we know, was called Leopard. That was the first book that introduced the West Germans. Now we have a West German book, which brings a few things to the table that Leopard didn't have.
Okay, important question before we dive in. Does this book have everything the previous book had? Am I losing anything?
No, you're not losing anything at all. This is basically the same book with the new stuff added in.
Okay, so this is like the full update for all the shiny, wonderful goodness and the killy deathness of West Germany.
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
I think that's the best way to say that.
So,
well, it's been too long since we've been on a video together.
Oh, yeah, and I've always read comments of people saying, you two should sit down and do more of these, and I'm like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah. All right, so the book itself, cover art is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and the cover art already hints at what we're getting in this book as well, because there's a new type of leopard here in the foreground and in the background that looks a little more what we would assume is a really up-to-date modern version of Leopard 2.
Okay, so basically, this is something I always wonder with the Team Yankee stuff is how far forward in time are they going to take it? Are we going to go like right up to modern day?
We're basically modern day anyway, because there isn't really a tank or a vehicle around today
that wasn't there.
There's some new stuff coming in now, but a lot of it basically was either thought of, built, or started being used in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff with the life extension programs, it's the same main hull and look and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just the electronics inside have probably changed.
Yeah, all the gubbins changed.
Yeah,
so,
gubbins, okay.
Yep. So let's open the book. Most of this is very similar to what you'll have been familiar with in Leopard. Yep. What I will do is skip forward a little bit because we want to get to these West German forces pages here, because we start to see Leopard 2 Panzer companies, but Leopard 2 A5 Panzer companies. We're getting other stuff in here as well. There's a few things in here that are mostly the same as the previous book, but when we get to talking about the models, there's a new model range to support it as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, this page. This page, because it gives the tank nerds in us all the tread heads, a bit of background on the Leopard 2A5, which talks about the development of Leopard 2, talks about how they went from A1 to A2, A3, A4, and then finally what we have in the book, which is A5. Down at the bottom, we get a little bit of a comparison of stats between the two Leopards that are now in the book.
Oh, so you've got some top trumps going on? A
little bit of top trumps going on, because we also get a comparison with the two sort of more modern Soviet equivalents as well, T-64 and T-80 respectively. Leopard 2A5 really, really strikes me as interesting because...
Well, it's pretty.
It's pretty. It is definitely pretty, because what this tank is doing is giving the West Germans a vehicle that, as we've played through before when we annoyed Phil Yates, all the times that he's been over and...
Yeah, if you remember, we did a Team Yankee weekend way back, and Phil was good enough to come across all the way from New Zealand.
Yeah.
That must have been a hell of a journey.
No, we tend to annoy Phil because he'll tell us that a game should take a certain length of time, and it never does when it's us two playing.
That was tanks, though.
Yeah, but we kind of did the same with Team Yankee as well at the time.
Yeah. I mean, like it's you and me when we're playing games. It's kind of more like fencing instead of like a boxing match.
Yeah.
It's who can get the first tap in, who can score that first point, and then it's dodging and darting around each other.
From that game, I kind of realized that the West Germans were all about being able to form an effective gun line, stay in cover and fire from cover, and you have the mobility in Leopard 2 if you needed it to reposition, to start flanking or something like that. However, this new Leopard 2A5 gives the West German player something that is just all punch. So this tank can take a hit, but can deal it back as well as Leopard 2 already can.
I mean, like, if I remember right, the Leopard 2 base is still pretty punchy. Are you basically saying they've juiced up a little bit?
Yeah. So let's have a look at Leopard 2 stats first. So front armor 18, side armor 7, weapon range is 40 inches, anti-tank rating of 22.
And that's all here under your fist.
Yeah, like I'm talking about this one. Though.
Oh, okay.
I'm hiding this one because there's going to be people who are going to be like, zoom in, zoom in. It also has the special rules for thermal imaging and chobham armor, which chobham armor decreases the effectiveness of heat. If I recall right, it reduces it by a couple of points, something like that. However, 2A5, okay, so we're going from 18 front armor, we're going up to 22 front armor.
Oof.
That puts you online with the likes of the Challenger 1 in the British book.
Yeah.
And almost gets you there with the T80, because the T80 is rocking in at front armor 20. So,
yeah.
What is interesting, though, is Leopard 2A5, as far as I know from the books I've seen, has the highest side armor rating of any other main battle tank I've seen so far.
Okay.
Challenger, maybe when it has the upgraded armor, maybe changes that a little bit, because it goes up to side armor 13.
That's pretty damn tasty.
So what you're doing as an enemy player against something like this is what you would have done with Leopard 2 is you would have thrown, because it only had side armor 7, you'd have been throwing a lot of your reconnaissance units, your light armor units at them.
Something that had anti-tank but not mega anti-tank.
If you're a Soviet player, you'd be throwing BMP 1 and 2s at it, because they would have the Saga missiles or the other type of anti-tank missiles, but also the cannon could probably do the job as well. But with 13, you're kind of looking at some of your recon units aren't going to be as effective anymore unless you have anti-tank missiles in there, like proper ATGMs, like the British Milan or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I was just wondering, is it the Milan you would want to throw against it, or are you going to have to throw some of your lighter tank forces in there?
You're going to have to commit a bit more heavy firepower to flanking a Leopard 2A5, particularly if they're running around in platoons of 3 or 4.
And then I suppose you're having to work on the speed of the heavier stuff getting to that position to get there. So that's going to buy time for these to actually just sit there and do their job.
Yeah.
And by the time you're maybe getting near the side, they've probably killed what's in front of them, and it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, we'll just engage.
We're going to swing into you.
So 2A5 is giving everybody the West German players that little bit of extra punch. That ability to take a bit more damage than what Leopard 2 already could, and that's where we're seeing this sort of generation gap between these main battle tanks coming in. The biggest generation gap I've seen has been Chieftain to Challenger, because Chieftain, by comparison, is like...
going from a tractor to a Lamborghini?
Kinda, yeah. Chieftain can do it, but you need more Chieftains, pound for pound, than you want for Challenger. Like, you can run less Challengers in a British force, but if you're running Chieftains, you need a lot more of them.
Right.
This is what, and you'll see this when we come to talk about points and army building as well, that you can have Leopard 2A5s, you can have a few of them, but you're going to be limited in doing much else tactically, because they are a huge point sink.
Well, depending on how many points of them you take, they could become like the main core of the force you're building.
Possibly, yeah, and we'll get to that because we've talked about army building with it as well. I think if you really like A5s, you're going to take them, but you're going to have to do infantry to support them.
Now, here's a question, because one of the things that I noticed Chris was talking about whenever you guys were talking in the World War II terms for the Bagration Germans was there are command card sets you can get that actually de-stat them a little and make them cheaper so you can get more out there. Is that a thing that exists for Team Yankee yet?
Don't believe so, no.
Press get to work.
I think it's just unit cards at the minute.
Okay.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember if there's command cards or not.
It's okay to say I don't know.
I say I don't know. I stand by that. So there's a couple of other new units as well coming into the field alongside our Leopard 2A5s. So you're not going to see much of it in here. We're going to come back to some of these pages looking at army building. So we have Leopard 1s, which are still there. Martyrs, which are now a plastic kit, which is great because Martyr is very versatile. That's the kind of vehicle I'd be saying you don't really want to be throwing at the side of a Leopard 2 A5 anyway. Let me see here, keep going, because there's a ton of units. There really is a ton of stuff. This book is a lot thicker than the original Leopard book as well. Weasel.
A weasel?
Weasel, yes.
Now, is it weasel or Wiesel?
Wiesel. Weisel. Wiesel. Weisel. The Germans out there are going to be saying, no, 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 you say it like this. And they're going to type it to me, and I still don't get it.
Here's the phonetic breakdown in German.
I'm going to call it weasel.
Okay.
You can say I'm wrong. That's fine.
Now, this is one of the things we were talking about that could be good to run if you're going like Leopard 2 A5 heavy.
Yeah. If you want a full mechanized force, you're probably going to be looking at a way to squeeze in as many weasels as you can.
Yeah.
But for a lack of any armor, because they're armor 0 all the way around.
Yeah.
You're going to be wanting to take a lot of them, or you're going to be wanting to make sure you play with them in a way that brings the firepower to bear, because the firepower is decent. The TOW Panzerabwehrzug is an improved TOW missile on top of a tracked vehicle. Like that's all you're paying for really in the points cost, because you're getting 4 of them for 5 points.
Yeah, so these are dirt cheap and they can hurt.
Yeah. So
what's the anti-tank on that?
The anti-tank on a TOW missile is 21.
So even if that was against like an A5, that could hurt.
But remember that a TOW missile is heat. So remember, if you're firing against something that has explosive reactive armor on it, that's reducing the effectiveness of your heat. It actually increases the effectiveness of the armor you're shooting at.
Really?
If it's ERA. In fact, it does even tell you in the comparison with the T-80 main battle tank, I believe, its side armor is 10. But because it has ERA armor on it, when you fire heat at that, it counts as armor 16. That's where you've got to be careful about what you're shooting at, what targets you're picking, and where you're shooting them from when you have something that has the heat special rule on it.
I'm also going to say, if you're a new player, it's little rules like that that can make the difference between you winning and losing games. So make sure and try to remember those, even if you make a little cheat sheet for yourself. Because I know, me personally, I'll always forget those.
They're usually on the stat cards anyway. So when you're
I will still forget them.
When you're using your unit cards, remember to read them properly. Make sure if you're firing heat, that you understand the ERA armor will be more effective against it. So weasels are quite fun. There's even a version that comes with a 20mm on it, because it looks hilarious. I imagine that's what the designers thought when they were putting it together. This is probably the biggest gun we can put on this thing without it flipping over. You can get 6 of them for 4 points. Now, they're horrible anti-tank, but their halted rate of fire is 3. So each of these weasels with the 20mm is getting 3 shots. And they're also anti-helicopter. So you're going to be able to engage those guys that like air cavalry. Like particularly your Soviet players that like a lot of Hinds and stuff like that. You've got a vehicle there that's pretty damn cheap that is going to be able to engage those. So
see, I like the idea of possibly using this to hold stuff off the flanks of the A5s.
Yeah.
Because with that 20mm, if you've got light recon vehicles being rammed up the side to try for a flank, having these to rush out to counter, to buy you even more time, to let them do their work, to then turn in and deal with them, I would use them for that.
You'd probably look at doing a mix of the TOW weasel and the 20mm Flugabwehrzug. These German pronunciations are going to kill me eventually. So you'd probably want to take maybe a couple of Zugs, maybe one of each, maxed out perhaps. So you'd be looking at 6, 7, 8, you'd be looking at 10 of them on the field, half and half.
Yeah.
That way you've got decent anti-tank with the TOW missile, and you've got decent anti-aircraft with the 20 mil. So,
and with the way things are for the Leopard A5s, you're probably going to get maybe 2 sets of that max in a 100-point list.
Yeah.
And even though we're saying these are dirt cheap, there is the flip side.
There is the flip side. There's
Are you going to the flip side?
No. There's always the downside to having a really strong tank on the field. And you see that in history as well as in your games. If you invest a lot, put all your eggs in one basket, someone will just go around the side.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. We built the Maginot Line, the Germans drove around it.
Yeah.
We built Challenger, people started using tandem warheads. There's always a way around whatever you want to invest in, so be aware of that when you're building your armies. Now, the next thing is the Kanonen Jagdpanzer, which is one of the more unusual vehicles that the Germans made after World War II, because they basically went, do you remember the Stug? And they had a bit of a nostalgia trip, and they went, oh yes, the Stug, it was so easy to build, it was so cheap, it was so effective, it was one of our best vehicles from back then. And everyone went, let's do it again.
See, you say Stug,
Yeah.
that looks more like a Jagdpanzer 2 to me.
Well, it is a Jagdpanzer. It has the classic outline of a World War II Jagdpanzer. It's a sloped front, it's low, it's got a big gun in it. I believe it's a 105? No, it's a 90 mil. It's like a low pressure 90 mil gun or something like that.
Does it hurt?
It has a 32-inch range, it has a halted rate of fire of 2, it has an anti-tank of 16. So it's okay, but its firepower is 2+.
That's pretty good.
So it's not going to take your main battle tanks on frontally so well.
Yeah, but once you get through that armor, you're pretty much on the money.
It's also, because it's a Jagdpanzer, as we all know from World War II, it is a forward-facing weapon, so the tank must be facing the front. It must be facing what it's trying to shoot at.
Maybe the designer of this was like Lloyd. Lloyd hates plinths on miniatures, and maybe this designer just hated turrets, which is like, turrets? No! What are you, a madman?
No, I genuinely think it was kind of like the nostalgia, you know, why do people buy classic gaming consoles? Because, you know, they think they're better or they had a nice time in their childhood. And this is a guy, the designer of this clearly seen a lot of Stugs when he was a child driving around Germany.
Yeah.
And he realized, you know, or he came to the conclusion that this might be a good idea again. It ended up not.
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of the same as getting the old console. I mean, I picked up an old Game Boy Color recently, and it's just like, oh, I remember the nostalgia of playing all the... Wow, did I really enjoy this?
Exactly. I think that's what happened to the Canon and Jagdpanzer, because it didn't stay in service too long before they decided it would be better as a command vehicle. Let's whip the gun out and just fill it with radios.
This is a good idea, because it's, I mean, it looks like it's got a nice low profile to it that can, like, go hull down very easily.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, I'm guessing, was the armor decent on it? What's the armor on this?
6 front, 3 side.
Oof.
So it's
light.
It's light, yeah. It's a bit too light for my liking.
For a frontline piece, yeah. I would kind of have that just hanging back at an objective and be dug in.
But not expensive either. You're getting 4 of them for 6 points.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you're getting 4 vehicles with anti-tank 16 and firepower 2+ for 6 points. That's okay, because they can fire heat as well.
Yeah, I suppose, and if you're trying to hold a position, that's where I would throw those on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think so. And I think in your games, you'll find a better use for the Jagdpanzer than the real Bundeswehr did, to be fair. Because they weren't, their doctrine really didn't have a place for something like this again. They were looking more at Leopards, and they were going, we want more mobility and more firepower rather than stand off and sit low sort of thing.
Well, when we talk about the main battle tank after World War II, that is essentially the evolution of what a medium tank to me would have been.
Yeah.
You know, so it was something that was, we can make a lot of them, they can hit hard enough to do the job, and we're not really overly bothered about just how insane we go with the armor, because, you know, really our doctrine is going to be he who shoots first, kills first, and wins.
Well, I would argue the armor with you.
Okay.
Because every main battle tank in Western Europe at least had Chobham, which was what I would consider an insane level of protection for what it is.
Okay.
Because the only way to get through Chobham is with a armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot, which is probably only being fired by the people that are friends with you. You know,
well, no, there was a Russian RPG that was made that could break Chobham.
Yeah, but that's recently.
Yeah, this is fair.
That's the RPG 27 or something like that. That can get through it, but like in a tank-on-tank engagement, if the guy firing against you isn't firing tandem warhead or the APFSDS, I got it right. APFSDS, yeah.
John's in there, Turbo Nerd is going, yes!
Got it right. You're really not worried too much, because this thing has been proof against anti-tank missiles, this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen that happen in the Gulf War and stuff, Challengers getting smacked by it and going,
you what?
Did we just get hit by it? Was that just an anti-tank missile? Was that a javelin or something daft? And it's like, we're still alive? Great.
Well, I mean, like, there was one I remember hearing about. It was a Challenger 2 in Iraq. And what was it? They managed to blow a track off it.
Yeah, they took both its tracks off and took out all its optics, I think.
Yeah, so and then literally the crew just sat there waiting for pickup while they were just lobbing RPGs at it.
Yeah. So
and none of the crew like died or anything. They were all fine. So go job them.
Western main battle tanks have the theory of keep the crew alive above all else and give the crew the tools they need to do the job effectively. That's why you see a lot of particularly with the British, and maybe to an extent the Israelis, but not quite there. They focus on having the best technology they can afford in the main battle tank for vision, optics, fire control, all this sort of stuff. Couple that to a gun that we know is going to be able to do it if it hits the target. So you make the computers make sure the gun will hit the target.
Yeah.
And then you keep the crew alive as best you can.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, like, your armor packages today are very different to what you saw in World War II. Because World War II, it was raw steel.
Homogeneous rolled plate.
Yeah, pretty much.
Face hardened or not.
Yeah. But these days, whenever you're thinking of an armor package, you know, it's not just steel, it's all the bits in between, which make up Chobham.
It's like an inch and a half of standard homogeneous steel on the outside of a tank, and then after that, that void between it and the crew compartment is filled with whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. Whatever you think is going to be effective.
Yeah, and it's usually Chobham or the more modern Dorchester, which is kind of Chobham on steroids.
Well, I mean, like, didn't they discover at one point Chobham had a shelf life? That it would degrade over time?
There's talk about that. I would imagine that if you smack a Challenger or smack anything with Chobham in it, that package of Chobham is going to be degraded because it's had to exert its force back on the round that's come at it. So you'll have caused problems into the whole package. So you might want to go back, put a new one in. That's the joy of it, though. You just replace that package. You're not taking the whole tank and throwing it in the scrapyard because the Chobham can't be removed from it.
I mean, the craziest one for me is the reactive armor, where it's literally strapping explosives to the outside of your tank.
It works.
It does, but I think it's insane.
It works to the point where it's still being used.
I know.
You know, it's on generation 7 of ERA.
Yeah, but you have to wonder who looked at it and went, I'm going to strap some plastic and a metal plate on that, and when it gets hit, it's going to go boom and knock the round away.
Well, it worked. There's not much you can argue about that. So we've talked about the main new additions to this. So let's talk a little bit about army building.
Okay, so if I was coming to this game, obviously there is the starter set that you can pick up. It's got 100 points in it. We will be doing a video on that.
Yep, we'll talk about that soon.
If I was coming to this myself, I would start looking at the weasels and looking at that infantry division first.
Okay.
Because that gives me the ability to take and hold objectives. Because that's the first thing I want to do in this game. Take, hold objectives, dig in, and win the game that way.
Right, so
it's not just murdering each other.
You want to hold ground.
I want to hold ground. You know, I want to be able to complete the objectives within the game.
Right. So if we want to hold ground, what infantry options do we have? Well, there's one that I've picked out before that I would like to run, and it's none of this. And it's none of that. It's not that either.
And you're drifting out of camera.
I know, yeah, but once I find the page...
Getting excited.
Here we go.
Okay.
A Fallschirmjäger company.
Okay, so you're going air cavalry?
I would go air cavalry, yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't trust a aluminium box to get my soldiers where they need to be before someone's main battle tank has decided to turn that aluminium box into aluminium slag.
But isn't that an aluminium flying box?
Yes, but it's a lot quicker.
Okay, so what are the benefits of this then?
This is allowing you to put infantry exactly where you want them to be. They're coming in fast because helicopters have unlimited range of movement. So
okay, that's kind of crazy.
They appear, they just go whop. If there's any anti-air in the area, they get a chance to shoot. Then you can hover or you can land and you can disembark your infantry.
Okay.
You're getting there, I would argue you're getting there a bit more reliably than you are in a APC.
Yeah, and it also means that, say, you're both starting from long ends of the table, whatever scenario you're playing, you're not worried about, I have to spend 3 or 4 turns just getting to the objective. And if my opponent gets there before me, I'm fighting him out of it.
And what it does let you do is hold the infantry back. You could even just fly them onto the edge of the table and just let them sit there. Let your armoured force move forward, do all the fightiness that it needs to do. And if you've pushed past, for example, if you've pushed past some buildings that you want to hold, drop your infantry there. Now you've created a back line that can lay down fire as well.
Yeah, supporting lines.
So that's my idea. I would go with a Fallschirmjäger company and I would max it out.
So what would that take to max out?
So the Zugs, each Fallschirmjäger Zug in this case has 5 MG3 and G3 rifle teams with a Panzerfaust 44 anti-tank rocket and 1 Milan team. So you're getting heavy anti-tank in there. You're getting a good Milan missile in there, which is anti-tank 21, firepower 3+.
Okay, that's pretty tasty.
Yes. And then you're getting your Huey as well. You're getting your UH-1 helicopter for 2 points. So 7 points per Zug.
Okay.
And the formation can take 3 of them. So that's not too bad. You have the options for your weasels there as well. So if you really want to go mad on your weasels, you can max out these two. These 2 Zugs.
Well, hang on, we're at 21 points to start. And then the weasels I like. I like the idea of the weasels because they've got a reasonable anti-tank in them.
Yeah.
And they've got the anti-air option. So what are those? Those are 9 points?
5, yeah. 9 points to put 10 weasels on the table.
Okay, so that puts us to 39 points.
39 points. So that's your infantry plus your recon, basically sorted. You could probably take maybe a couple of these companies if you really felt like it.
Well, I mean, like doubling down on that would give you a lot of table control, but if we went from this as like the core of the force, and then we wanted to put in like a support unit of the Panzer, or
you want to put Leopards in now?
I want to try and put Leopards in.
Okay.
So we're at 39 points if my mental math is right and I haven't screwed numbers up.
Yep, so the way we can do this is either take them as the formation, so we can either take the Panzer Company, or we can take a Zug as a grey box option, perhaps. Because you'll be allowed to pick, you may field a combat unit from a black box as a support unit for your force. So we don't need to take it as a company, which reduces...
We can just have a Zug.
Yep, it means we don't have to worry about taking this
the
command.
minimums.
So what we can do is we can just look straight at the Zug. So 4 Leopards are 68 points.
Oof.
That is a heavy choice.
Well, it only leaves you 14 points for the rest of your 100. So that's maybe too many?
No. I think we're on to a winner.
We're at 39 points already, though.
Yes.
Unless you want to drop the weasels.
So no. So let's go with the 68.
Okay.
So what is that bringing us to?
68 is 22 points left over.
Is it 22 or is it 14?
68 is... Yeah, because 70 would be 30 left over.
Okay.
32 points, sorry.
Okay, so have you taken the 1 point in for the Fallschirmjäger Company command?
Okay, so we're at 69.
Okay.
You were?
So he said the funny word. So 69 points. We say we're doing... Tournaments, from what I've talked to with Chris, are basically 90 to 100 points for World War III at least.
Okay.
So let's go with the 100-point upper limit. So we have 14 points to play with, pretty much.
Well, we're at 69, so that's 21.
21. Okay. So we have 21 points to play with. What?
Oh,
no. Are you?
My math is wrong.
Your math is wrong.
Yeah. It's 31. 31 points left.
So we have 31 points.
31 points, yes.
That's not bad.
And that's with the command section of your infantry, but nothing else. So you do need to take your platoons of infantry. So you need to get your Fallschirmjäger in there next at 31 points left.
Okay, so you have pointed up currently a Zug of Leopard 2s.
Zug of Leopard 2. How many are we getting?
We're getting 4 of them.
Okay.
4 of them for 68 points. Okay. We're going on to this. So there are infantry. So
69.
Are you sure?
1 point for this, on to 68.
1 point, 68, 69, 1 point for the company command.
Yep.
So we want to run 3 Zugs, which are 7 points each.
So 7 and 7 is 14, is 21 onto the 69. So that goes 70, 80, 90, 10 points left.
10 points left. Weasels then. That's it. You take 2 full Zugs of each. Take a Zug, full Zug of each weasel type.
Yeah.
You're at 100 points.
Yep. And that actually works really well. So my mistake that I was making when we were at 39 was I thought it was 2 of each of these we were taking.
Right.
Which is the numbers I was running off.
So we have, in this army, we have 4 Leopard 2A5s.
Yep.
We have 10 weasels. 4 of them are running tow missiles.
Yep.
6 of them are running 20 millimeters.
Yep. And then you've got 3 platoons of Fallschirmjäger with helicopters, with the Milan, and anything else that unit comes with.
Which is 18 bases of infantry, 19 bases of infantry, including the HQ, and 3 or 4 Hueys.
Do the Hueys have any weaponry?
I believe the Hueys just have door guns. It's a door MG3.
Okay.
And that's
So it's just something to spray away on. Okay.
You have a little bit of DACA with them, but you don't really need it.
Yeah. Again, it's that supporting fire that I always find. Say there's a unit that's just about gone, and you don't want to commit like a full paratrooper infantry squads shooting to it.
Yep.
Just have your helicopters go. No, just mop that up if you don't mind.
Yeah, because they can drop their infantry, and then they can be harassing.
Yeah, they can just woof off.
They can harass unless you have an opponent that has a lot of anti-air, in which case you
yeah, it's just like, you go sit there, park there,
you go away.
wait there, park there, it's fine.
You hide, you land behind a building or something and just sit there for a while until we call you.
Yeah, or until the tactical situation changes and we need to yeet.
So that's our 100 points. I'll turn it over to anyone else that wants to leave a comment or anything like that and say if you have a better 100 points or something you would change out of that list, I'm all ears.
I mean, for me, if I was to change anything, I would take one less Leopard.
Okay.
Because if you go to the Leopards, from 68, I think it goes to like 51.
Yep.
So that leaves you room to get more of those weasels in.
But you can... Hang on. What does the formation say we can have? No, we can only have 2 if you take this formation.
Well, I mean, we've got these 3.
Yeah.
We've got Weasel 1.
Yeah, which is the toes.
Okay.
And the 20 millimeters.
So
that's why I'm saying we're filling these 2 slots.
I get you.
So we're running a Fallschirmjäger company, but it's going to be supported by 4 Leopard 2s. I'm all right with that.
Well, I mean, Leopard 2 overall, the stats are kind of ridiculous.
I think it's going to be a very tough nut to crack.
Well, the way
unless you're getting
is,
on their side or on their rear, or you're flying in with attack helicopters.
Yeah, well, I mean, like what I'm expecting to happen is the A5s are going to roll up the table, laying down fire. As soon as you have a position set up where you're ready to take the objective of whatever game scenario you're playing, you send in your infantry, you get them in, you get them bedded in, and then your Leopards are literally just taking up defensive positions saying, I'm the king of the castle, come and get me.
Yep, and the best thing about the Leopards is that their rate of fire is 2 moving or halted.
Oh, that's very nice.
So you're not losing anything by keeping them still, and you're not losing anything by moving them.
So it gives you some tactical flexibility to keep the rate of fire up while changing targets on the fly.
Yep. And that's maybe something I did wrong with my first game with Leopards, the original Leopard 2, because I believe their rate of fire is still the same halted or moving because of the stabilizers.
But were you in a good defensive position?
I was in a better position. I was fine where I was, so I kind of decided to sit still.
See, this is a mistake some folks make. They will move just for the sake of moving to feel like they're closing with the enemy.
Yep.
And then they get too close and all of a sudden something zips out the side of you and hits you.
Yep. That's the thing. You don't necessarily, if you don't have to move, don't move.
Yeah.
If you're able to stay in cover and give your Leopards a bit more survivability by making them harder to hit, better. Even though Leopard 2A5, I think, is going to be a very tough nut to crack, even when it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Why not make it titanium?
Yeah, why not make it titanium? Let's put a slab of titanium in front of that chobham and see what you can do.
You know, this guy, he built the house here. Yeah, this little silver line here. Yeah, that's a titanium garden fence, which just happens to be 3 foot thick.
The guy was sick of tanks in World War II driving through his garden. So.
Yeah, that, and you know, he just wanted to stop having to tell the kids to get off his lawn.
Absolutely.
All right. So have we said everything we need to?
I believe so. Yeah. I think we're gonna check out some of the model range next, and yeah, you can let us know in comments and whatever if you think our 100-point list works, doesn't work, is ridiculous. Stop what you're doing and put away your models, or you know, try something different. So,
or you want to see John beat Chris around the head with it someday in the future when the world gets back to normal.
I think that would be hilarious. If you want to see that, let me know. I will do that.
All right, everybody, tell you what, get your comments in below. Tell us what you think. We will move on. We will see you again in the next one.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.